morning. You're watching Businessworld Live. I'm Danny Laurel. It's the start of a new trading day. Let's kick off with our top story. Metro Manila mayors are willing to implement a 2-week enhanced community quarantine or ECQ that's on the back of the threats posed by the more transmissible COVID-19 Delta variant. MMDA Chairman Benhur Abalos said NCR can be under the strictest lockdown level as long as the government can provide a fresh round of social amelioration program or ayuda to the region's residents. Abalos says a vaccination that's open to all should also be carried out during that period. Now, this suggestion by the local executives comes after some business groups expressed support for a 2-week lockdown in August to stem the spread of the Delta variant. Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship Joey Concepcion said August is the best time for the lockdown, citing weak demand during the rainy season and the Chinese belief of Ghost Month when business deals are avoided. The Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chambers of Commerce says a 2-week hard lockdown could help prevent further Delta-related restrictions in the last quarter of the year. The Octa Research Group earlier proposed a so-called circuit breaker or an early hard lockdown in Metro Manila for 2 weeks starting August 1st, noting that the region is now averaging 1,000 new infections a day. Octa says a circuit breaker can lessen infections to 600 a day. Meanwhile, a statement from the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry said the group's official stance is that they are not endorsing another lockdown at this time. PCCI leaders say the government should instead focus on accelerating the nationwide vaccination program. For his part, NEDA Chief Carl Chua says a full analysis is needed before making a recommendation on the type of lockdown needed. Now, on the quarantine classifications, Metro Manila will remain under GCQ with heightened restrictions until August 15th. This after the president approved recommendations to maintain some mobility curbs as COVID infections continue to rise again. Now, other areas under GCQ with heightened restrictions include Bulacan, Laguna, Lucena City, Cavite, and Rizal. That's along with Naga City, Bacolod City, and Davao City. Other provinces and cities with the same quarantine classification are now flashed on your screens. Meanwhile, Iloilo City, Iloilo Province, Cagayan de Oro City, and Gingog City will be under the strictest classification, that is, enhanced community quarantine from August 1 to 7. Meanwhile, the provinces of Ilocos Norte and Bataan, as well as the cities of Lapu-Lapu and Mandaue, will be under modified ECQ from August 1 to 15. Interesting to see how the markets will be reacting to all of this. Will we not? For the time being, same status quo. Take a look at my terminal here. It's a bit of a slide here by 0.15%. We're still at 6,400 levels. Now this, as you can see, this U-shaped curve from yesterday, that had sank to a low of 6,300 levels already. It sank as much as 2.3% before getting some bargain hunting there to prop it up, but still ended the session down by 0.8%. And very importantly, we did see again net foreign selling. We lost around $15.3 million net dollars in shares. It's a third day of withdrawals. Let's take a look at which ones are dragging the bourse down and which ones are keeping resilient here, as of course we are 4 minutes into trade. You can see on my terminal here, Globe Telecom leading the charge, actually up by 1 6/10%. Very interesting to see whether the telecom providers, which have been of course stars of the lockdown in terms of work from home and broadband particularly, but you've also got Metro Pacific and Meralco improving their performance this morning. But on the downside, you've got AGI, Bloomberry, and GT Capital pulling down the index. Now, let's take a look at some interesting plays here. First of all, the mall operators, SM Prime being the largest one, and that is down by more than 1% this morning. However, it is quite a mixed bag, actually. You've got Mega Wide and Vista Land still in the green together with Ayala Land, but RLC and SM Prime heavily hit. Now, Bloomberg Intelligence is actually saying that SM investments will be affected by lower shopper traffic and sales, and the property division may need to provide even more rental support to their retail mall tenants, and that could last into the third quarter, but still seeing earnings higher year on year because of base effects. Let's take a look at the restaurants here and see how they are performing. Max is not really happy, down by 0.5%. Jollibee is actually up by 0.8%, but that had dropped by 2.7% already yesterday. And you've got Shakey's, which is down by 2.6%. And finally, just a quick check on one company, that is Cebu Landmasters, and you can see that the best performing year to date in the property index, just basically going, away from the rest of the property sector. They're still bullish on hotels and travel. Yesterday, they had revealed their very first resort development. That's a 2.5 billion peso Abaca Resort in Mactan. It's a boutique hotel which is set to be completed in 2024, 125 keys, 17 stories high. It will be designed by renowned architectural firm Buro Ole Sheeran. So very interestingly here how they are still banking on that luxury property segment, particularly in Cebu. And finally, some earnings to get through here. Let's kick off with Aboitiz Power, which is up by 0.4%. This as they have announced their second quarter core net income at 3.9 billion pesos. That's up 175%. They said that the generation and retail supply business recorded first half EBITDA of 20.5 billion pesos. That's up by close to 40%. And the capacity they sold in the first half was up by 6%. Distribution businesses also recorded sales up by 4% year on year. And this, of course, feeds into Aboitiz Equity, the parent company, which is also performing in the green this morning, up by 0.25%. This, as they say, that their second quarter net income was 4.9 billion pesos compared to the 1.9 billion pesos last year. So that's up around 158%. And of course, the power income contribution to that was, the 7.8 billion pesos in the first half of the year. The group says they're optimistic that the Philippines is on the right track to recovery. Power, of course, accounting for 53% of the total income contribution. Let's check in on the biggest headlines we are watching this morning. The Bureau of Internal Revenue has suspended its regulation increasing the corporate income tax for private schools. This as the bill correcting the tax treatment is still pending in Congress. Now, with Revenue Regulations 5/2021 suspended, nonprofit private schools will now continue to enjoy the preferential tax rate of 1%, which has been lowered from 10% under the CREATE law. The BIR said that the suspension of the regulation allows authorities to finally clarify income taxation of schools and ease the burden of taxation among proprietary educational institutions during the pandemic. Cocopea thanked the Finance Department and the BIR for heeding the call of the Senate and the pleas of the private education sector on the matter. Recall that the group earlier flagged the previous regulation for its supposed erroneous interpretation on the tax imposed on private schools. Now, the Treasury has set a 200 billion peso borrowing program for August. That's as it expects sustained demand for government securities. The government is set to raise 60 billion pesos via Treasury bills, another 140 billion pesos in T-bonds. This month, the Treasury raised 238 billion pesos from the local debt market, exceeding the 235 billion program after the tap facility was opened 4 times. The borrowing plan for August is lower than this month's program, largely because of fewer T-bond auctions. A lot of swinging between a yes or no when it comes to a harder lockdown amid the looming Delta threat. What is the private sector monitoring? Now, here to weigh in, we have with us Sergio Ortiz Luis, who's the president of the Employers Confederation of the Philippines. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the broadcast.
Good morning, Danny, and to our listeners.
Sir, let's kick off with a new, if it's a new pronouncement. Nevertheless, we are still going to be under heightened GCQ at least for the first half of August for now. Are you relieved about this? Is this a good decision for the time being for businesses to reopen, or is this not enough given the numbers that we are seeing of the Delta threat all over the world?
Well, definitely we are relieved because we were posed with the possibility that there will be a hard lock, no? Because of the suggestion of an independent uh, advisor supposed to be Okta, which I don't know why. Now they are very persistent in going against the people they are advising. And last night I was even shocked to hear they're saying that if the DOH does not follow their advice and does not do a hard lock, and the cases go up and there will be more deaths, DOH will have to answer to the people. What kind of advice is that? They're trying to divide the people. They're trying to politicize the issue.
Mhm.
If they're just there to help, why don't they advise DOH or IATF and not the media and go public and try to go against the and have their will imposed on the public. They have pushed actually. I'm glad that IATF and the government did not put to the trap because they have been put in this position where damn if you do and damn if you don't. Meaning, if they don't impose a hard lock and something happens, then they will say, uh, "We told you so."
Mhm.
They'll be blamed, and as they said, they will have to answer to the people. But what about them? They're very good in advising and panicking people and advising hard locks. They are not accountable for anything. Are they accountable if people die because of the hard luck? If people gets hungry, if there is chaos and there is criminality, they're not. All they're doing it is for business. Because I was really surprised when initially they were saying this is for public service, and then eventually they came out with the presidential uh, t- uh, uh, and senatorial lineups of who are winning, and all the time there it's a business venture. They have begun to call themselves UP, and then UP does not UP Okta, and I think UP does not recognize them. So who are they, and what is their credential actually? So I don't think we should follow their advice just because they say so. I think the Department of Health, unlike in the last March lockdown that we had,
Mhm.
has been preparing the hospital rooms, the facilities, and unlike then, they know what we're doing. If we have a hard lockdown now, what will we do? Exactly the same what we're doing now. Uh,
Mhm.
Follow the protocols, the vaccination, the contact tracing, the isolation, and they continue improving the numbers of our hospital rooms, our isolation facilities, and that's what we're doing. What would be a hard luck to? It will just cost us billions. Like the ECQ that we did last March, NEDA said it cost the economy for the 2 weeks 80
Mhm.
billion. And they also said that the salary earnings lost to the private sector is about 1.2 billion a day.
Mhm.
And who is accountable for that? And now that we have, hopefully, the DOH has been preparing, the IAT has been preparing our facilities, our hospitals, our isolation, and usage, even oxygens and things like those. If they are, we should see whether there will be a real surge
Sir,
and we can handle it.
Sir, but apart po from Okta, we also did hear from several representatives of the private sector. Now the PCCI has actually retracted their statement that they're recommending a hard lockdown, but we did have even a presidential advisor for entrepreneurship, Joey Concepcion, saying that this might be necessary. Some people saying that we might need it eventually anyway, and it's better to quell the spread right now than to wait for it to get worse to enable us to, so to speak, save the fourth quarter. What are your thoughts on this? That other business leaders are
Well,
asking for this?
the data that this independent, they started it. That they said it's going to be this and that, and so far they've been doing great because in the past the DOH has basically left them doing all these things using their data, and I don't know who's financing them, but every time they will say this will happen, we will react and we will do a hard lock. Wala naman sila accountability, and the people is facing difficulty. How many people are getting hungry, and how come? How will the and the PCCI was actually misquoted.
Mm-mm.
I think what we were saying is, if there is no choice, give us time. And even Mr. Barcelona said, give us time. Not within the day. You do a change in the you do a hard lock. No, but if there is no choice, then what can we do?
Sir, but
That
do
is
you
our
think that the
position.
businesses can handle the Delta variant if there is no lockdown? Have we reached a level of vaccination? Have we reached a level of safety protocols that the businesses can confidently say, with no lockdowns, it's going to be okay?
The question really is, if we do a lockdown, we're going to do the same thing anyway. We'll try to fast track the vaccination, the rollout. We'll do our usual. What would the lockdown do really? It just will cost the 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 advantage as against the disadvantage is really not balanced.
Mhm.
You do a lockdown for what? Unlike in the past, when we did the first lockdown, and you remember that,
Mhm.
and the frontliners wanted a rest,
Correct.
we were supposed to do something. And last March, we were not ready, but now the DOH has been trying to beef up the rooms of the hotels, has been trying to beef up the the facilities. That is what we're supposed to do. Even if we have a lockdown, what will just the mobility? You will just stop. How will that help? And every time there is a threat of a new variant, and there will always be.
Okay.
We always do a lockdown to the point that the economy cannot. Even the stock market, just the news of a lockdown went down already. I heard. I think we
Yes.
heard you, and these are the effects, billions. And what will be the cost if we just try to protect our health system? A few 100 million,
Mm-mm.
and we don't have to keep on having the people suffer.
Okay, so very clear position there. Lockdowns are not the solution, especially not for the time being. We need to protect our workers, and we need to keep, as you mentioned, safety protocols and the vaccination rollout together with the reopening of the economy. Thank you so much, Sergio Ortiz Luis, President of the Employers Confederation of the Philippines.
Thank you, Danny.
And that's a first look into the business day. Today is Thursday, July 29, 2021. Catch Business World Live for the market close. It's at 3:15 p.m. today. I'm Danny Laurel. Mask on, wash hands, stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.